class, the Receiving School students and teachers?
Good morning, Mrs. Watangas.
How are you all this morning?
We are very well, thank you, and how are you this morning?
Very well, just like you all, thank you. You may be seated. Now, I'd like to welcome back you all, the class, the Receiving School students and teachers, to term 4, which is our last term for this year, 2005. And I'd like to once again take this opportunity to thank you all, especially for your participation and cooperation with me for the rest of the year from term 1 all the way to term 3. And as we begin a new term, which is the last term for this year, I hope you will be all with me as we go through until we end this year well. And I hope what you will learn during this term will help you to help yourselves to live productive lives. Now, we will be just looking through the strands, the sub-strands, and the outcomes of what we have to go through this term. Before we go to that, teachers, for your information, our resources, we will be still using the same resources that we have been with for the rest of the year. There are no other new resource materials. However, teachers, you will have to do your own research looking for books, available books at your schools that can help you in teaching what we have to go through for this term. Now, our strand, there is community development, and with that strand comes 3 sub-strands. And we also have 3 outcomes. So let's have a look at our strand, which is community development. Now, just looking at the pictures that I have on the screen, that should give you, the students, a good idea or fair idea of what community development is. If I can have someone from the class who can tell us what you think of community development, or what is community development? Anybody from the class? Yes, thank you, Orvin. Can you come on again? Buildings. Anybody else? I'd like more than that. Orvin is just giving me one word. I'd like your answer to be in a sentence or 2. What is community development? Anybody who can give the answer to that question? Shane, if we can have you. Very good, thank you. Good answer. Now we have, you can see from the pictures we have a picture of a hospital and also bridge and road. Those are some of the things that are done, or some of the events or happenings that happen in the community to help to develop the community, or that helps to change the way the people live in the communities. Now, our sub-strand, the first sub-strand, is knowing your communities. Knowing your communities. Now, how do you come to know your communities? How do you come to know your communities? There are also, once again, 2 pictures there to help you to come to know your communities. We have one that shows of students participating in a dance, probably in the village, and also some students helping in things like activities like making new canoes. So this should at least help you or give you a clue to what you should do that should help you to come to know your community. Now, in knowing your community, this is where you have to get yourself involved so you are able to know the needs, you are able to know what your community lacks in, that you as a student, you could group yourselves, or you could talk with people, leaders in your community, to do some things that you can help to improve the needs of whatever your people need in your community. Now, if I can have someone to give me an example of what you can do that can help you to come to know the needs of the community that you live in. If I can have someone to tell me that. What can you do that can help you to come to know the needs of your community that you live in? Thank you. We have Adrian with her hands up. Should give us one.
Being involved in social activity.
Good. Getting involved in social activities. Social activities, Adrian, if you can give us, that's your answer. So if you can give us an example of social activities.
Sports.
Very good, sports. So sports, that's one of the activities that you can get yourself involved with. And while you are with people in your community playing around, you will come to know what the young people in your community need. Good. Any more? There are many others, but if I can have one more. We had one already. Social activities like games. Any others? Group 2. Somebody who can give us one example. Okay, we have group 6. Somebody is there prepared to give us one. So let's have Paul D. Is it?
Community activities.
Community activities. Good. Okay, if you can keep standing, give us an example of a community activity.
Cleanups.
Cleanups. Very good. You are helping to clean up your community, and you are getting yourself involved. And while you are there, you are able to know. You will come to know. You can hear, while you are working, you can hear people talking about problems they have. And in that way, you will know the needs of your community. Very good. Now, we are going to go to the next strand, next sub-strand, which is communication. Why is communication very important, especially in community development? What is communication? Can I have someone from the class who can tell us what communication is? What is communication? Yes, thank you. We have Riku.
Passing information to one another.
Very good, thank you. Riku says passing information from one to another. Good. Any others besides what Riku has given us? Passing information from one to another. Now we have Ovin once again with the hand, so let's have Ovin.
Communication is an act of imparting news or information.
Very good, thank you. Now, what are some means of communication? Or how do we communicate? How do we communicate with each other? Riku said passing information from one to the other. So how do we communicate? Yes, thank you. We have Tulanga.
By talking.
Pardon?
By talking.
Very good. By talking. Talking to each other is good. Let's say one from Elisa.
By reading.
By reading. There are many articles, things that you can read. We have a sample of that newspapers. Any more? Helen, let's say one from you.
By listening.
By listening to others. Good. Aloysia, one from you.
Posting.
Okay, good. Now, so when you have a look at the screen, if you see the screen, we have some examples of some of the means of communication, ways that we can communicate with each other. Now we have newspapers there. How? How do we communicate with that newspaper? Or what do we actually do there? Junior?
By reading it.
Okay, good. You are reading what is written. So communications, there are two. The one is writing and another is reading. Something written and you are reading what is written. What about telephone? What about telephone? How do we communicate? Telephone. Newspaper, written communication, you are reading it. Yes, Francis?
Talking to each other from different areas.
Okay, good. Telephone, you are talking and listening. Good. What about radio? Violet, if you can tell us, radio?
Listening.
Okay, listening, but you are also speaking too. There's somebody who is speaking and you are listening. Good. We also have computer. We also have computer there. Yes, let's have Melin.
By sending emails and reading.
By sending?
Emails and reading.
Okay, good. Anybody else who would like to say something more on computer? Yes, William?
Sending emails and reading.
Good, thank you. Now, if you look carefully, we have another picture that shows a fax machine. Can somebody tell me what we actually do there? What sort of communication do we use in there? In especially fax machines, using fax machines. Okay, we have Nigel.
Faxing.
Sending messages, okay? You are writing, thank you, Nigel. You write and you also, what do you do? Receive. You are writing, sending, and you are receiving as well. Okay, so these are some of the means of communication. Now, I'd like the class and the receiving school students to think back quickly. These are more than means of communication. Now, what about a traditional means of communication? Yes, thank you, Shane.
They use garamuts.
Very good. Using garamuts. Another, William.
Making fire.
Making fire. Good. Garamuts, fire. Okay, let's have Paul Simon.
Blowing conch shell.
Conch shells. Good. Fire, conch shell, garamut. Nanadai.
Shouting. Shouting.
Shouting, yes. Some people, they shout. Especially our students, receiving students who are in the highlands. I believe you use a lot of that because you are on the hills. You can shout from the top of a hill down to those who are down where the valley, so they are able to hear you. Good. Now, so those are some examples of traditional means of communication. Now we have a look at what a community is. What is a community? Can someone tell me quickly what a community is? What is a community? Jennifer?
A group of people living in an area.
Very good. A group of people living in an area. Okay, we also have another substrand, which is community projects. Now, we just had Jennifer giving us the definition for what a community is. And as we are going to be basically basing on community development, now that we know what community is, I'd like someone to tell me what are community projects? What are community projects? We seem to be having the same people. What about the rest of us? Okay, let me have Riku.
A project held in a community, for example, cutting grass or
That can
that can help the community
to.
to develop the community.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Request given us examples of her own community projects. She thought of some community projects, and she has given us what or how that community project can help the people living in the community. Now, our outcomes, we have 3 outcomes, and they are 7.3.1, 7.3.2, and 7.3.3. Our substrand, knowing your communities, we have the outcome 7.3.1, and if I can have Bobby to read for us what our outcome says.
Reflect on personal strength and capability and consider how they might use this to contribute in the positive way within the community.
Good, thank you. Now, that is actually talking about you, the students. Now, don't forget you have your own personal strengths and capabilities. What one is capable of doing, another cannot be. What strength another has, another may not be able to do that. Now, I can give an example of somebody we have in the class. All throughout term 2, okay, some of us, we give up. I mean, we do the work that we have been told to do, and at the end, we all leave, but this person remains back and makes sure that everything is done well, okay? Now, I believe you all know who I'm talking about from our class. Now, that person is capable of doing that, which some of us cannot. So see, we all have our own capabilities and own strengths. What Violet can do, Elisa cannot do, okay? So, whatever capabilities and strengths that we have to use that well to at least help to do something within the community that we all live in. So that is our first outcome, 7.3.1. Now our second substrand, which is communication, and the outcome 7.3.2. I will have Rachel to read that outcome for us. Please, Rachel.
Identify and establish network partners within the wider community to promote more effective access to information.
Okay, that is our second outcome on the substrand communication. Let's have a look at our third or the last substrand, which is community projects. And I'll have Harold to read that for us. Outcome 7.3.3.
Initiate and plan.
Initiate
and plan cooperative project. Then that encourages community and school
participation. Okay, good. Thank you, Harold. So that is our third outcome for the substrand community projects. Now let's look quickly through some of the definitions of some of those words that we had looked at in the strands, substrands, and outcomes. The first one we have, what is a community? We already had Jennifer. She's given us the definition, and I have it there. I'd like you to have that quickly written. And let's have Carol to read that for us while we are writing. What is a community?
A community is a group of people living in the same area who work together to meet their needs and wants.
Very good, thank you. Now our next definition is on development. What is development? Now if I can have Shane, if you can tell us what you think of development. What is development?
Changes taking place which builds our community up or something to do with our community.
Very good. That's a good answer. Thank you, Shane. Okay, I'd like you to have that written as well, class and the receiving students. And we'll have Gail to read that for us, what development is.
An event or happening that brings about changes in the community that promotes better living.
Very good, thank you. We just had earlier Shane make a mention of that. Thank you. What is communication? What is communication? Anybody who can tell us what you think of communication? What is communication? We had earlier someone from the class giving us her own definitions, but if I can have someone else to give us again what communication is. Helen, you can give us what communication is.
Communicating is passing messages from one another.
Very good. Passing messages from one to another. Now, knowing your communities is one of the sub-strands, and it briefly tells us what we mean by knowing your communities. Now it says having knowledge, information, or understanding of the needs and wants of the community you live in and be able to provide help or assistance. So that is actually, we briefly talked about the substrand knowing your communities, and in here it's just reminding you again what knowing your communities is. Now there's no need for you to have that written in your books. What is communication? What is communication? Let's have Justin to read for us the definition for communication, or what it is.
A process which involves sending, receiving, and reading messages.
Very good. It's a process which involves sending, receiving, and reading. So actually there are three things that takes place: sending, receiving, and reading. Now communication can be oral or written. It can be oral or written. Now I'd like someone to give me an example of an oral communication. An example of an oral communication. Elisa?
Talking on the phone.
Good. You're talking over the phone, like she said, or talking to another person. Oral communication. Now, what about written? Written communication. We already got two examples of oral communication. Can I have, okay, let's have Trisha. Written communication.
Newspaper.
Pardon?
Newspaper.
Okay, good. Give us another one, Hayano. Written communication.
Writing facts.
Writing
facts.
Facts. Okay, good. So one we had is reading newspapers. That's a written communication you are actually reading. Another facts. You write and you send it. Any other written communication? Yes, Francis?
Writing letters.
Yeah, writing letters. That is what a lot of us do. Reading what is written in a newspaper, only few people do that. Facts also, but letters, so many people communicate in written through letters. Okay, let's have a look at what oral communication is. In oral communication, we are actually speaking and listening. Somebody speaks, you listen, or you speak, another person listens. Okay, I only like you to write what it says. Listening is important for good communication. Just have that written. Speaking and listening And the most important thing in there is listening. It's important for good communication. And that is about oral communication. Written communication, what actually happens in written communication? In oral communication, we actually speak and listen. What about written communication? Can I have someone to give me the answer? Yes, Rachel?
Writing and reading.
Writing and reading, good. Okay, so written communication, two things happen. There is writing and also reading. Let's have Regina to read for us what it says there. Writing and reading, the important thing about good communication.
Good communication promotes good understanding.
Very good. Good communication promotes good understanding. You write well, you write clearly. Whoever is reading is able to understand what you write. If that person is not able to read what you write, then that person won't be able to understand what you have written or what is written probably in a newspaper or the textbooks that you use. Now, lesson activity, we are not actually going to write whatever is there for lesson activities. I will be having your answers orally, meaning you discuss it quickly in your groups and you just give me, once I come around, you give me your answer. And we are going to have groups 1, 2, and 3. You will be doing activity 1. Okay, groups 1, 2, 3, and 4. You are going to do activity 1. 5, 6, and 7, you will do activity 2. Now, with activity 2, for groups 5, 6, and 7, it says 2, but I'd like you to only think of 1. And with the rest, groups 1, 2, 3, and 4, just have 1. So when I come around, you give me yours. But I'd like you to talk about it quickly in your groups. Group 1, you are to list 4 community development projects. And groups 5, 6, and 7, 2 means of written and oral communication. Now in there, I don't like you to give me whatever examples you have seen on the screen. I want your own.
Speaking and listening.
Okay, let's see group 1. 1 from you. 1 from group 1, you come and have yours written. Group 2, 3, and 4, only 1. I already told you in the activity it says 4, but I'd like to have 1 from everyone. Okay, group 1.
Yeah.
2.
What you do is you just go and write like
3 and
the
4. Once you have your answer, I'd like you to come and write your answers here.
Community developed and it's a project like, for example, the hospital. The community, they have built it.
One community project, that's what you are coming up with.
No, the hospital was already in the one side. Just write
Once you are ready, you can come and write yours.
and what?
Thank you. Very good. Okay, group 4. That's your space over there. Oh, this is all permanent. Okay, thank you. Messi, have yours. Group 4, I want you to be specific. When you say building new buildings, that's too general. What type of buildings? Group 1, start thinking about what type of services. That's too general. Group 1, you said services to improve our daily life. What type of services? Group 2, 4, what type of buildings? Very good. Classrooms. Good. Services. Okay, group 3, are you ready? You should be having your sum. What type of services? Give us your example there. Please, 5, 6, and 7, I'd like you to get ready with your means of communication. Five, 6, and 7, you have to have one of each, one oral and one written. Okay, group 5, 6, and 7, yours is means of communication, one oral and one written, and it mustn't be one of those examples I have put up for you. So let's have group 5, move quickly. 1 is oral, 2 is written. Okay. Okay, thank you, Jennifer. We have Francis. Write yours quickly because group 7 is still waiting. Okay, your second one. Write properly. Okay, good. Group 7. Okay, your second one. Right. Thank you. Now, so if you have a look at it, those are what we have. These are some examples of community projects and some examples of oral and written communication. Now our key phrase, let's say Patricia to give us what a key phrase is. Key phrase for this lesson, unit introduction, which is community development. Now our next lesson will be tape viewing on some community projects. And with that, good morning class, the receiving school students and teachers.
Receiving schools, here's your reference for the next lesson: strand, substrand, outcome, topic, materials, and reference.